As Until Dawn approaches its 10-year anniversary, the game is still the most popular of its kind. In 2015, there were plenty of choose-your-adventure games by then, but none of them were quite on the same level as Until Dawn. With a full cast of talented actors and some pretty innovative graphics for its time, I don't think we'll see another horror game on the same caliber of polish and budget as Until Dawn for a long time. With the remake recently coming out, Until Dawn's legacy and name continues to grow and thrive. Just look at the game's subreddit follower and the amount of posts on there. The fandom is still going as strong as ever. There's a lot of factors into why the game is still the most famous and iconic of its kind. From quotable lines,
"Understand the palm of my hand, bitch,"
to the atmosphere, to the characters, to the chase scenes, Until Dawn is just amazing to me. I have watched countless playthroughs of the games, but it still felt as fun and as fresh as ever when I played the remake for the first time. Granted, it threw in some changes like the third-person camera angle, 2 new endings, and a new soundtrack. I do miss some parts of the old soundtrack though, but it didn't sound that out of place to me. However, what really hooked me in was just how amazing the story and the killer reveal is. In this video, I'll be explaining why the Until Dawn's killer twist works so well, and is so iconic that to this day that their developers have been trying to recreate the same magic in their games. Heavy spoilers for Until Dawn and some spoiler warning for the Dark Pictures anthology and The Quarry. Proceed at your caution. For those who haven't played the game or need a quick recap of the story, the game is about a group of 8 teenagers who went back to their friend Josh Washington's family mountain during the 1-year anniversary of his twin sisters, Hannah and Beth's disappearance. In the prologue, Hannah was pranked by her friends and then ran off into the snow afterwards, humiliated, while Beth was finding her. They ended up being chased by something, falling off the cliff together. Throughout the game, we're also put in these sequences between each chapter with a man named Dr. Hill, who basically gets more deranged every chapter. He will ask us questions and give us his opinions on what happened in the last chapter. As the teenagers split off to do their own thing, they're all slowly targeted by a killer. Or well, killers in plural. You see, as Jessica and Matt were hunted down by this figure, Chris, Sam and Ashley were terrorized by this man in a clown mask. We'll call him the Psycho. However, as they slowly find out things aren't quite what they seem, Chris and Ashley really get put through the ringer in this game. The killer made Chris choose between Josh and Ashley and then himself and Ashley. Warning, you do not want to be selfish in this scenario. Bad stuff happens later. The first plot twist comes when we're revealed to be playing as the Psycho during the therapy sessions. This game throws a lot of twists at you, and this is not going to be the last. If Sam manages to escape the killer, she will be able to investigate his workshop and then find out that Josh was the culprit all along. It doesn't exactly spell it out for you here, but come on. There's literally a tape recording of him practicing his Psycho voice.
We're gonna conduct a little experiment.
Hello, children. No, that's not right. Greetings, pilgrims. That might work.
The clues that Sam finds allows for more insight into the mind of Josh, like how he survived being sawed in half. He didn't actually get sawed, by the way. His mental state and who Dr. Hill was, but regardless, if you get caught or not, the second plot twist comes when it turns out that Josh was actually the Psycho. With Josh unmasked and tied up, you will think everyone is safe, right? Nope. Even though Mike insisted that Josh killed Jessica, Josh kept denying that he hurt her. Meanwhile, Emily, who was stranded in the mines, is the first one to really find out what's going on. There's actually a real killer all along, and it's a monster. That's the third plot twist of the game, and it's the one I'll be mainly focusing on in this video. Plus, it also gives us the best chase scene ever. Look at how quick she is on her feet. Anyways, Josh wasn't actually the one behind the kills. It was this strange, inhuman creature called the Wendigo. The man which the game had been teasing as the killer was actually just a flamethrower dude trying to keep the monsters in check. When Chris realized he left Josh outside tied up with the Wendigo out in the open, he went to save Josh with the flamethrower dude. Despite being a so-called expert on keeping the Wendigos in check, he got killed a few minutes into his rescue mission. This means that the rest of the teenagers are now left stranded in the lodge until dawn.
When? How long?
Not until dawn.
If you shot Ashley in an earlier trap, she's going to lock Chris out, leaving him at the mercy of a very hungry Wendigo. If Emily gets bit during her chase scene, Ashley immediately causes a panic in the basement and Mike starts aiming a gun at Emily. Sam is really the only reasonable one here, while Chris was a sitting duck just waiting for it all to be over. Like, come on. Couldn't you guys just snoop into the flamethrower dude's notes for a hint before shooting? Like, I'm sure he has explored that possibility before. Anyways, it gave us the best scene in probably horror game history, so I can't nitpick this scene too much. They would have probably been fine in that basement if only Mike didn't get stubborn and went to find Josh for the cable car key. Of course, if Emily wasn't alive to tell them she called for help, I'll understand the thought process. But if she told them she radioed for help, what more is there to do except, wait. What's funnier is that if you choose to shoot Emily, none of the characters really care after that scene. And like, guys, your friends just got shot. Aren't you a little traumatized? After discovering that the sanatorium has Wendigos, the remaining survivors in the basement go to find Mike. The second most pointless death happens in this little adventure when Ashley hears Jessica's voice and the trapdoor banging. I mean, the trapdoor used to bang, but now the door just stays still in the remake. If you had read the Flamethrower Dude's book, you will find out that the Wendigos can mimic voices. I do find it strange that there are only 2 instances of them doing this though. The other one you only get if you kill Emily. The characters at the lodge will hear another scream from Emily after she dies, but it doesn't really fit how she actually screamed when she dies. Back to the story. Sam and Mike finds Josh after Mike blows up the sanatorium. You know, where the flamethrower dude kept the Wendigos locked up. Yeah, it comes back to bite them in the ass later. If you find Hannah's diary in the mines, you will discover that she actually ate Beth to stay alive, which will turn her into a Wendigo. Yes, the Wendigo that has been hunting down the main cast is actually Hannah. After Josh gave them the key, he gets snatched up by his sister back to her lair. If you find the diary, he identifies the Wendigo as his sister in time, and she spares him. Otherwise, he just becomes a crushed watermelon. Ow, that's rough. This is the 4th and final plot twist of the game. It's probably my second favorite twist in the game. Wendigos aren't exactly nice, but it explains why Hannah was so vicious with the teenagers. Anyways, remember Matt and Jessica? If they manage to stay alive until this point, they meet at the mines, and then they get chased by Hannah. And don't you ever dare abandon Jessica, you sick bastard. If they survive in your first playthrough, I applaud you. That is not an easy feat. Back at the lodge, Mike and Sam reunite with the rest of the survivors and also the Wendigos. Good job, Mike. Now they have to deal with 4 Wendigos instead of just 1. While in the lodge, Sam and Mike formulate a plan to blow up the lodge. Depending on your choice, you can instantly take out 3 of your characters by making the most stupid decision in the game, or well, second most stupid. Either way, if you blow up the Wendigos and the lodge, you have finally finished the game. By the way, if you save Josh without any additional inputs, he becomes a Wendigo after being stranded in the mine for a short amount of time. Depending on if you have a survivor to tell the police, he'll either be found by a pair of rescuers and attack them, or he'll be left alone in the mines, safe to munch on any future travelers. For this next section, I would like to mainly focus on the Wendigo is actually the killer twist. I will briefly discuss the other plot twists of the game like the Hannah Wendigo and the Psycho plot twist, but the Wendigo reveal is what I consider to be the game's main twist. Throughout the game, you get 3 different categories of clues you have to collect. The Mystery Man clue line, the Twins clue line, and the 1952 clue line. The Mystery Man clue line tells the story of a vengeful arsonist after the Washington family. The Twins clue line shows the life and disappearance of Hannah and Beth. The 1952 clue line tells the story of a group of 12 caved-in miners who were rescued and sent to the sanatorium. After collecting all the clues, you find out what happened in their respective storyline. In the Mystery Man clue line, it's revealed that most of the evidence is faked by Josh to scare them. He was just trying to make the character think that there was a psycho on the loose. In the Twins clue line, you find out what happened after Hannah survived the fall. She ended up eating Beth after being possessed by the Wendigo spirit, and she ended up turning into one herself. Finally, in the 1952 clue line, it turns out that 12 out of the 30 miners that survived the mine collapse turned into the Wendigos after having to eat their companions to survive. They're still alive and trapped in the sanatorium, until Mike released them of course. I forgot who on the Until Dawn subreddit said this, so credits to them. But the reason why Matt and Jessica doesn't have as much plot relevance or screen time is because they don't have a role to play in each clue line. In the Mystery Man clue line, Sam, Chris and Ashley are the main characters. Josh is also the orchestrator, so he counts as one of the main characters here. In the Twins clue line, Emily, Sam and Chris are the main characters. Meanwhile, in the 1952 clue line, Mike is basically the leading man. Matt only picks up a few clues for the Mystery Man clue line, and Jessica doesn't pick up any clues at all. Even though most of the clues on the Mystery Man clue line is fabricated, there's a few that's actually just flamethrower dude, such as the cigar stubs clue, the mystical symbol clue, and the Native American letter for one. Those are actually about him. What's amazing about this game's writing is that it blends all three clue lines together by the end of the game. You might think that the 1952 clue line has nothing to do with the Twins clue line at the start of the game, but you find out that the excavation of the mountains is basically what released the Wendigo spirits, one of which will go on to possess Hannah. Emily and Hannah also landed at the same place that the miners were trapped in. The Mystery Man clue line doesn't lead to nothing either. There were a few clues foreshadowing the presence of evil spirits on the mountain, which is, as we know, Wendigos. I love that the game makes you think that at first Josh really was the one killing Jessica and Matt and, everyone, since he seemed batshit crazy enough to do it. It doesn't help that their deaths don't seem that supernatural, but in hindsight it does raise a few questions about how Jessica was dragged out of that window so quickly, and why the killer is fast enough to drag her to the mine in minutes, or how a killer managed to set up all these traps without Josh having a clue. But it just doesn't seem right, Like, why would Josh keep denying he killed Jessica? That makes no sense. He's already confessed to fucking with them. Why would this be any different? But then, as if to answer the player's question, the game then reveals the true killer to the players through Emily's perspective and gave us one of the most amazing chase scenes. The switch from what seems to be just slasher horror to supernatural horror isn't an easy one to pull, but Until Dawn just does it with ease. It doesn't help that the game throws so much red herrings at you. It first makes you think that the flamethrower guy was the one that took Jessica and caused the death of Hannah and Beth. Afterwards, it makes you think that Josh was actually the one killing them, and then it drops a Wendigo reveal a few minutes after. There's a lot of mindfuckery in the game. But the killer reveal doesn't just come out of nowhere. It was foreshadowed with all the clues, the Wendigo vision perspectives, the screams in the forest.
What the hell is that?
Was it someone screaming?
No. Probably just a squirrel.
You can even see it before the twist if you mess up enough as Mike in chapter 4. If the player pays enough attention, they'll be able to deduce that there are actually two separate killers before the twist. Killers in quote, by the way. Because are any humans even strong enough to do this? I really doubt any humans in a supermassive universe are able to do that, except for maybe Bobby from the Quarry and Dude from the Devil in Me, I guess. You can skip to this timestamp if you don't want to be spoiled for the Quarry and the Dark Pictures games. But I find that the Man of Medan plot twist was way too obvious by the prologue. You had all the gas coming out and stuff, and even in the game, Conrad's chase scene basically gave away the twist because he's actually hallucinating the second player as the ghost. It kinda falls apart because the game is basically built around multiplayer. Many other Dark Pictures games and even the Quarry struggle with this issue the most. I find that Supermassive keeps on trying to repeat the Until Dawn twist formula, but it just falls flat in my opinion. My main issue in the Quarry was that they placed so much emphasis on the full moon in the prologue that almost anyone can figure out what the game is about by then. I mean, come on, they even used Moonlight by Ariana Grande as the intro. Couldn't it be more obvious? The things that I liked about House of Ashes and The Devil in Me is that they don't force any convoluted twists and they just focus on keeping the story engaging and simple. It's sad to me because Little Hope's gameplay and story was actually interesting if you ignore the twist at the end. A story about reincarnation, witch trials and witch curses are just so interesting. But what made Until Dawn's twist work for me was that everything made sense in hindsight. The flamethrower dude isn't interacting with the teenagers because he was suspected for Hannah and Beth's death. He also has a good reason for not giving away the information on where they were last seen, because he would obviously be put in jail. Given that the Wendigos are mostly only hunting at night, it makes sense why no one was aware of them until that day. Meanwhile, the hunters in the quarry are acting so suspicious for some reason. They could have just said, "Hey kid, there's a werewolf around here, get out of here." But they're just stomping around, covered in blood, and they place a sign called hunting season for some reason. Just makes no sense. And also, why don't they just take Mr. Hackett's damn car and go to the Harbinger motel? And why does camp end on the full moon? Like, there's so much things that don't make sense about this. Granted, I shouldn't be as harsh on these games when Until Dawn had half a decade to bake in the oven, metaphorically speaking. It was in production for a long time, with the script and the game being passed around a few studios, so they had time to fix the plot holes and make the game more engaging. The Quarry, meanwhile, had the misfortune of being right in the middle of a pandemic, so many storylines and branches were cut. But still, there's a reason why Until Dawn is considered the GOAT of this genre, despite being more linear and fixed. Until Dawn's story just works from beginning to end. The mystery of what happened to Hannah and Beth is solved, with Hannah actually being the monster that was hunting the cast down all along. The act of pranking Hannah was basically the spark that caused the storm fire that was the day they all came back on the mountain. What's tragic about this game to me is that almost every character in this game, they don't deserve what happened to them. That's what makes it tragic, doesn't it? No one really deserved what happened to them, not even Hannah, Beth, Jessica, Emily, Mike, Sam, anyone, every one of them. Until Dawn was also fun and engaging before the actual killer was revealed. It didn't bore me like The Quarry did, sorry. You were still chased by something, you were still able to kill two of your characters before the Wendigo was even revealed. You were invested in who killed Jessica, Matt and Josh, why the psycho was chasing Sam, why the psycho was after the Washingtons, what was happening in the sanatorium, and what happened to Hannah and Beth. Not to mention who did those weird camera angles belong to, and what do they mean. All of your questions are answered by the end. Every single question, no plot thread left unanswered, unless you did not pick up enough clues in the sanatorium, in which you get this very funny scene.
There was all this like crazy shit. Like cages and weapons and wolves. Yeah, fucking wolves.
You sure you weren't at a truck stop?
To cap off the story, even if your characters all die, every Wendigo is also killed and released. So it basically tied up every loose ends. That is, unless you left a certain someone alive. This is basically sequel bait at this point, isn't it? My intentions of this video isn't to talk about the entire game or its story, otherwise I'd dive into the specifics of the plot and the game, the pros and cons, and the characters. But the most interesting part of this game to me is how they made the story and by extension, the killer reveal work. It's not the most groundbreaking thing ever, but you can't deny that this was what made the game an iconic cornerstone of its time. I will give anything to experience the game and its twist again. It's really an amazing game from start to finish, even if it's very linear. If you haven't played the game but you have only watched videos about it, I would recommend it a lot actually. The atmosphere and the gameplay just can't be matched by a YouTube video. The most branching that can really happen in this game is if Mike gets caught at the sanatorium, which basically causes Sam to take a longer route to save him. But otherwise the game is pretty much the same beat by beat. Is it a bad thing? Maybe, but it had a really engaging story, so who's to say the pros didn't outweigh the cons. I might also seem like I hate the other Dark Picture games and the Quarry, but I don't. They're actually super fun to play from beginning to end, but Until Dawn is really one of a kind. It really is. I think in a decade or so, Until Dawn would become a classic in the horror and story game genre. Mark my words. By the way, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching until the end.